Welcome to Dr. Jester Rants, and I'm gonna rant about this from Bounds into Comics. Idris Elba rejects identity politics and reveals no longer refers to himself as a specifically black actor. Quote, I don't want to be the first black, I am the first Idris, end quote. Yeah, you probably should have thought of that before you accepted many race-swapped roles, but you didn't, did you? Hey, maybe he finally accepted that he did wrong and realized his mistake? But that's definitely something that I would call wishful thinking. Let's face it, he is a very, and I'll add many variants into that one, good actor. I love his work, what he has done, and I wish we could see more movies or TV shows with him. Simple as that. But I wish, instead of taking some race-swapped roles, he would do more original characters. There is a very retarded part on the left who insists that James Bond should be black. Yeah, they are creatively bankrupt. They need the James Bond to spread their goddamn fucking message because they cannot create anything original that could spread their message and still receive reasonably well. Bank. But if they could actually be bothered to create a character, let's say spy, and make it in a different universe, no, maybe on the same universe, or different, but if it's the same, let's make it 008, 008, 009, 009, or definitely a new universe. Let's take an example of Atomic Blonde. She was, I think that's the correct name. She was a spy movie, a very good one. And it showed her weakness as being a woman, but also her strengths. It happened during the 80s, right before the GDR fell, before the Soviets fell. It was a great movie. I don't understand why the left doesn't even remember about that movie, but it was a spy movie and the main actor, or actress in this case, was a woman. They should do the same thing instead of insisting on casting him at 007. Maybe you get the new IP and we get to see more Idris Elba. Elba. On screen, it's Elba. Alright. In a rare instance of sanity within an industry completely obsessed with the inherently detrimental concept of identity politics. Yep, identity politics ruin everything. It has ruined every single time it has been applied. Let's take a look at Nazi Germany. That worked well, didn't it? Or the Soviet Russia. That worked spectacularly well, didn't it? Right, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 star revealed his voluntary change in language during a recent conversation with Esquire UK Alex Belms. Right, ostensibly asked by Belms about his experience with racism, the published Esquire UK piece is formatted in such a way that the reporter's questions are omitted in favor of spotlighting Elba's responses. The British native replied, I'm always curious why this is fascinating to people. It's a question I get asked a lot. I don't go to my black friends in conversation and ask them to tell me about racism. Have I ever faced racism? Yeah. Everyone has. I have faced racism. But those are tiny little details that is uncomfortable for the left. I'll discuss that after the trailer.
right. We are born of sin and crime. We are repentance personified. We are immortal. We are legend. We are God's wrath made manifest. And we know no fear.
Right, so, discussing the racism, I felt because of my skin color for being way too white in Latin America, that's a given. You can't go to certain places because people start to stare at you, or you are mistaken by someone with a lot of money when you don't actually have any. Right now, actually, if you notice that I decreased the quantity of videos that I upload per day, but increased the time, that's because I need to work now extra to compensate for the money I lost from the scam. So, you know, I'm not rich yet because of my skin color. People assume I'm rich. I get less stuff. If I were, let's say, black, I would get priority treatment everywhere here. I don't. Right, moving on to a more cheerful response, the realization of Idris Elba. Right. Here is what he says. Quote, if we spent half the time not talking about the differences but similarities between us, the entire planet would have a shift in the way we deal with each other. End quote. Correct. Very correct. We are, after all, humans, and that should be the uniting identity for everything, but it's not. Because there is a lot of identity politics mixed in who insists that people are different and that some are inferior to others. Anyway, continuing, quote, as humans, we're obsessed with race, and that obsession can really hinder people's aspirations, hinder people's growth. Racism should be a topic for discussion, sure. Racism is very real, but from my perspective, it's only as powerful as you allow it to be. Bingo. Wanna know why I don't delve into that? At least a lot. It's because you give it power. The only time I actually dwell into it is when I try to apply for a job or anything like that. I get passed on by because someone else has a different color than me and that person gets more privilege. That's the only time I actually really get miffed. But anyway, continuing. I stopped describing myself as a black actor when I realized it put me in a box. Exactly. Because right now, remember I think it was Dark Towers or Two Towers, Dark Towers, I think it was. You're the black guy who played it. Or Will Smith. It seems people seem to forget that he is black when he plays his roles. Remember, Hollywood is a very, very, very visual medium. If you're going to adapt a material that already exists, be it in a book, comic book, video game, or something else, or even a remake, you should try as best as you possibly fucking can to try to match the original character visually as much. Like what happened with Sonic. Remember the fist Sonic that looked really retarded? Yeah, people were up in arms. And eventually they fixed Sonic and now it's a huge success. It's the same thing with actors. You are going to cast a black actor to play what should have been an Asian woman? It just breaks the immersion. You just see it. Yeah, they did this for diversity purposes. And then you keep on, if you read the book or the original material or you played the game or something like that, is it? Yeah, that doesn't seem to be X character that I remember from X in Y media. That feels so odd. It breaks immersion. It breaks the story for you. And especially when they start shoving in their narratives, messages, and stuff in between, and it becomes just so fucking worse. So much fucking worse. It's just... But anyway, I digress. Continuing. Quote, we've got to grow, he urged. We've got to. Our skin is no more than that. It's just skin. Rant over. End quote. Correct. It's just skin. Exactly. Bravo. Right now, I'm worried he may actually get blacklisted for saying those things. And he's such a great actor that it will be a shame he gets blacklisted by Hollywood like a few other actors who kind of said the same thing, relatively speaking, like Gina Carano and Nick Searcy and others. Right, continuing, quote, I accept that it is part of my journey to be aware that in many cases I might be the first to look like me to do a certain thing. And that's good to leave as part of my legacy so that other people, black kids, but also white kids growing up in the circumstances I grew up in, are able to see there was a kid who came from Canning Town who ended up doing what I do. It can be done. Exactly. Exactly. Because when I grew up, I did not even care for the skin color of the actor. I identified with Blade. The guy's goddamn fucking black. And I loved it. It's that trilogy, Blade trilogy, is my top 10 favorite action movies ever made. It was amazing. Do I look like fucking Blade to you? First and foremost, I'm not a goddamn fucking daywalker. I'm not a vampire that can walk during daylight. Nor am I black. And yet, Wesley Snipes. Jesus, it was amazing. One of my first internet handles ever was being called Blade. And then there was Spawn. I love those comics. Do I look like a hell demon? Okay, maybe a little bit. That came out from hell, and am I black? No. No. Yet I identified with the character. And it wasn't an issue back then, but somehow, somewhere in the narrative of today with the far leftists, somehow skin color became the actual trait that you need to identify with. Otherwise, you cannot feel immersed in the media. Are you fucking retarded or what? Remember Mindy Kaling, in which she said she identified with Velma. And then suddenly, when she began launching this goddamn fucking show, she began to contradict herself and say, but now I identified with myself because it's the right skin color. For the love of fucking God. It's just absurd. Right. Continuing. Quote, I didn't become an actor because I didn't see black people doing it, and I wanted to change that. I did it because I thought that's a great profession and could do a good job at it, end quote, and he fucking did. He's an amazing actor. Like Morgan Freeman, holy fuck. He made the perfect god in the Almighty movies, Bruce and Evan Almighty. He actually did a very good race-swapped Shawshank Redemption. God, that movie was great. Right, moving on, quote, as you get up in the ladder, you get asked what it's like to be the first black to do this or that. Well, it's the same as it would be if I were white. It's the first time for me. I don't want to be the first black. I'm the first Idris. End quote. Correct. I think it's time we actually grow up and realize that you should pretty much respect the original material, the original stuff, all of those things, and then forget about race. First and foremost, of course, Hollywood's a visual medium. You should try to represent the original character as much as you possibly can. But in the end, if you go, oh my god, it's the first black gay transgender Ixon in the movie. What it feels like to be represented. Pretty much that needs to go. But it's Hollywood. It's infested with far leftists who, after all, they created Nazism and communism and socialism. So, identity politics, it's something that they love to do. They love it. On that goddamn fucking hell, have a great fucking night.